So with Nx, we are covering the entire spectrum of development, whether that is locally within your editor, within your terminal, but also remotely as you push up those code changes to your CI environment and it runs through your CI pipeline. So this is where NX Cloud comes in. So here currently I'm looking at the NX Cloud dashboard for Nx itself, which is like a public open source repository, so you can go and check it out. You can also find this page directly from the nx.dev website. You also see the different CIP, so CI pipeline execution runs down here. Right now, we don't have anyone currently running actively, but you can kind of go in here, understand what has been run. You see here the different machines, so the different agents that have been used to run this. Now, one interesting aspect is the data that NX Cloud collects and has over time. Because clearly, you push up new PRs, you submit runs. These run basically different tasks of your workspace. And so out of that, you get different data about the cache hit rates, those that fail most often, those that are most flaky. And this can be interesting for you to understand how you can potentially optimize your source level code again, or your local workspace architecture. Now, we already exposed some of the data in your workspace. So if you go to the workspace settings, you have an analytics tab at the very top here. And so if I go in here, we can change different ranges. For instance, let's go with 90 days for now. Very interesting for me is always also the time saved, because you get some crazy numbers here over 90 days. Like we literally on the NX repo save like a year and 160 days, which is mind-boggling to think of. Now, this is just some of the data that we exposed. But one thing that we've been thinking about while we developed the Nx MCP, so the whole AI integration of your Nx workspace locally, that a lot of the future interaction with such data is going to happen over an AI assistant. So basically, you use your AI assistant to query the data, to get the data locally into your assistant conversation, and then together with your assistant, elaborate that in whatever way you want or need that right now. And this is exactly what we did. So here I'm in Claude Desktop, and you can use any MCP compatible client to actually connect it to NX Cloud and Nx MCP. So what we can do here, for instance, is ask it something like, use NX Cloud and extract me all the CI pipeline executions of the last 28 days. And so now you see it invokes here this NX Cloud pipeline tool. This comes from the Nx MCP. Now, I allowed it to always run this without asking for a confirmation, but obviously your first time it will have a pop-up where you can then allow it, or either just once for this session, or in general always. So you can see it asks it multiple times because there is paginated data, so it tries to get as much data as it can. You can see here it continues fetching to make sure it gets all the pipeline executions that are interesting. All right, so here you can see we get a report that is being printed out. So here's the data that when the report has been extracted. You can see here the date range that when it has been extracted, and then a breakdown about basically the succeeded runs, that immediately succeeded, those that failed, those that have been canceled. You see the different branches that have been active, so it even highlights some of the Gradle-related work. You see some of the top contributors during that time range. And then you have here a breakdown kind of like between the individual branches, and you get some more insights here. Now you can use this now to follow up and dig deeper into the actual runs. Can you extract all the runs from these pipeline executions? And I'm mostly interested in the failed ones. I'd like to better understand whether there's some patterns of why certain tasks fail. And once it has enough data, again, it creates such a summary report for me. It looks like the end-to-end tests based on infrastructure issues are amounting to 42% of the failures. There's also some native build issues. This, for instance, could be something which kind of stands out to me where I could go and look into it more in detail. So what I want to arrive at here is that this is a conversation that I'm having with my AI assistant that looks at my data, presents them in a way that could be interesting for me. And now, for instance, I could go and pick up this specific build issue and ask it further. Similarly, queries could also go to ask it basically how much is my cache rates over my PRs compared to the main branch, even though those types of questions we will probably answer much better with like pre-made statistics in the NX Cloud dashboard. I have also experimented with some more experimental queries where I'm trying it to identify suspicious patterns. Now note that LLMs right now are not as good as when it comes to kind of statistical breakdowns, but usually pattern matching can be a very interesting aspect where we can use LLMs to explore more. So here, for instance, I looked at NX Cloud data again and asked it to look at the workspace product of NX specifically here and the test target and extract me that data. And so since I'm asking here to find suspicious trends, if I look at the data down here, it tries to figure out some of the suspicious trends that might have happened over this period of time. For instance, apparently in March, there has been a major performance regression for some reason. Then you see some spikes here in June and April. And so this is interesting to kind of look at and then dig further to identify basically points where I might be looking into closer. The cool part is that you can then ask to plot this data. And so here, for instance, I had it plot the data fully interactively. And so Claude Desktop here created a kind of web page almost where it points out the main statistics with fully interactive charts that plot here, for instance, the cache miss durations over time. Now here, for instance, if you can even zoom into specific aspects and then take these basically as points to do further research and dig deeper. Now again, take these with a grain of salt, but it's very interesting to see the capabilities, especially as LLMs keep improving over time, of basically looking at your data from a more holistic point of view to figure out where are areas that I might want to dig deeper, basically. So that said, one thing you might wonder is how can you use that on your own? Now, this is a very first experimental release, but you can already go and take any MCP compatible client and try it out on your own. So right now here I'm in Claude Desktop, and so you can open up the settings, go to the developer settings, and then you can see that I configured here the Nx MCP. You can open here the config by hitting edit config. And so this will open up here this JSON document where you can see here how I configured the Nx MCP by installing it over npm and then pointing it to the workspace which I want to analyze. Now we're going to improve this experience by fully remotely hosting MCP such that you can directly connect to that one in a much more straightforward way. So that said, definitely try it out. Again, as always, reach out in the comments what you like about it, what types of queries you would want to use or want to see in the future that we improve further, because in the end, obviously, it depends on the data that we explored through this MCP interface. As always, like the video, subscribe to get more info in the future, and I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.